of the Steve Malzberg Show. We are joined right now by Kirsten Kukowski, the National Press Secretary for the RNC, the Republican National Committee. Hello, Kirsten.
Hello, how are you?
Good. And actually, I should be saying Kirsten, not Kristen. But anyway, welcome aboard. Appreciate it. So, you know, when you hearken back to that interview and that ridiculous statement by President Obama, as we now find out and have found out so much since then, but the latest, of course, being that the emails, which the IRS commissioner said did not exist anymore, now we hear from DOJ attorneys talking to Judicial Watch. Guess what? They do exist. They have to exist, but it's just too much trouble to find them. Now we know that Lois Lerner's BlackBerry has been destroyed on purpose. It was destroyed when the congressional investigation started into all this. Boy, oh boy, does that look worse and worse every time you play it, huh?
Well, it definitely doesn't smell good, does it? You know, obviously there's going to be a little more work to do, and I'm glad to see that a lot of our congressional members are very much on top of this and continue to dig while and running into walls, obviously, that they're like they continue to do with the IRS, with DOJ, with the Democrats, the president. They clearly don't want to answer our questions, and I'm happy to see us still trying to dig for those answers. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't smell good. Clearly, there's more than what meets the eye. Clearly, Lois Lerner was trying to hide something, whether it be on her BlackBerry or the fact that they just don't want to go and find the backed up records that could, for all intents and purposes, right? I mean, clear the record and clear Lois Lerner if they really wanted to. But clearly, there's something more to this story.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, I had Paul Ryan on yesterday, and I asked him if the IRS is going to get, in the long run, going to get away with this. And he said no. He said they're going to keep at it, and they're not going to stop. And they're hoping they could run out the clock on Congress, and they're hoping that it fades away from national view. And in the media, it certainly has. But nonetheless, he said they're not going to get away with it. You think that that's realistic?
Well, that's good to hear, right? And just another person in Paul Ryan who can really, keep their feet to the fire and make sure that we get the answers that all the Americans obviously deserve. So I'm glad to hear it. That's great news.
All right. Let me move on to the VA scandal and the president making remarks yesterday at the American Legion. I want you to listen. And this is very typical. I did a Give Me Five commentary where I played about 7 or 8 or 9 of these. There was very, very limited applause for just about anything that the president had to say yesterday. Let me play one of those videos for the folks, and you could listen.
And as we go forward, we'll continue to partner with Afghans so their country can never again be used to launch attacks against the United States.
I mean, and that's just one example. And he stood there and waited because it probably said in his script applause line, and there was just nothing. There was no emotion. There was no applause. They weren't that thrilled with anything he had to say, and I'm not all that surprised.
No, we're not either. And I think, looking back on some of the articles that have been written yesterday and today, I think they're characterizing the applause as polite but not enthusiastic. I actually think that's a little too nice, right? I mean, I think that was pretty much forced. And I think that obviously, where that's coming from is we still don't have a lot of answers on what happened with the VA. And it was a pretty large scandal, and we still don't have answers. And the report yesterday, while it did obviously, it really did examine what happened in Phoenix. And I know that they're promising to continue to investigate other VAs across the country. But I do think there were some people who are unhappy with the fact that it said that they couldn't actually connect some of the deaths with some of the delays that had been exposed. And I think sometimes when you're looking at, a patient who had been waiting months for a new pacemaker and who ended up dying of heart problems, I think you do have to wonder why the IG report would have a hard time connecting some of that. I'm not an expert, so I obviously can't speak to that directly, but I do think that that's where some of the skepticism with our military and with our veterans communities and here in Washington, I think that that's where some of that comes from.
All right, let's move ahead to November. I mean, 2 months and a week, and it's it's the midterms, and boy, did that creep up on us quickly. There was some talk, and there's been talk all along, isolated although it may be, by the likes of Debbie Wasserman Schultz and some others that, oh, yes, Nancy Pelosi, we're going to run on Obamacare. We're proud of it, et cetera. And then there was this apparently a TV commercial by Senator Pryor in Arkansas where he talked about his own experiences in dealing with his insurance company when he had cancer. And people took that, some on the left took that as, the Senate candidates even are going to run on Obamacare. But there was, I think, a Washington Post story that really put an end to that kind of talk, because they say that one commercial is not a trend. In fact, it was one commercial by one senator, and there's nobody running on Obamacare on the Democratic side, is there?
No, there really isn't. And when Pryor's ad came out, there a lot of Democrats tried to use as an example of, look, see, Obamacare isn't an issue that Republicans want to run on anymore. We're running on it. And that was just false. First of all, the Pryor ad wasn't as much as Democrats made it out to be. He really didn't want to use the terms Obamacare. He's running from even using that O word at all. And I think that, yes, the Washington Post came out today. Cook Political Report came out on Friday, basically in summary, in short, saying, no, this is not an issue the Democrats are running on. This is a huge liability, huge vulnerability for Democrat candidates, especially those running in red states, which a lot of the incumbent candidates are right now. So no, Obamacare is definitely going to be continue to be an issue for them, and we're going to continue using it and highlighting it, and tying it to Obama as much as we can, because it's working.
All right. Now, as far as energizing the left, Chris Matthews with some remarks the other day talking about how, wouldn't it be nice, and I wonder if the African-American base now is going to be motivated because of Ferguson. You have all kinds of speculation as to whether or not the president will sign his executive order on amnesty before November or after November, because I think it'll be a bigger backlash, certainly, with Republicans and conservatives, so he may wait. But that aside, you also have now an attempt to energize big, key left-wing environmentalist fundraisers, I believe, by talking about going ahead and circumventing Congress on some kind of climate agreement. Is any of this going to work, do you believe, and are you still confident, or are you confident that the Republicans will take back the Senate in November?
Oh, we're very confident. I do think that, while, yes, there are a couple examples right there that you just gave that the Democrats are definitely trying to energize their base, and they're very clear about what they're trying to do as we're, 68 days from a midterm. Look, it's not going to work. You can see in all the polls, the enthusiasm gap in our favor is real, very, very much so. And I think that a lot of the problem comes from the president himself. On Ferguson, Maureen Dowd in the New York Times had a column this morning about basically, President Obama dithering on Ferguson, not taking a stand. That is not helpful to any Democrat running on the ballot in the midterms. Specific to immigration, if you look at the recent polling, Americans do not want President Obama or anybody going alone on immigration. It's an important issue, but it's something we all need to sit down at the table and talk about. And amnesty and him going alone obviously energize his base is not the answer. And I think that is actually going to end up hurting him, and his party. So I do think that there's a little bit of overreach. The climate change thing is the same thing. Him going it alone while the White House thinks that this is an optimal thing for their base could really end up backfiring and giving us just what we need to cross that finish line. But I think we feel very, very good about where we stand right now.
I got one more for you, Kirsten, and that is the recent move by Burger King. There's one U.S. senator who says, Sherrod Brown, who says we should boycott Burger King. I'm sure the left is going to pick up on that, and maybe there will be protests and boycotts outside of certain Burger Kings, although many of them are independently owned. Most are independently owned and business owners, and it would only hurt them and their workers. But nonetheless, this is a ringing endorsement for getting rid of or severely cutting that corporate tax. But Obama's going to play, he's going to play populist politics with it.
Well, I think it just shows that there's actually some holes in the president's argument on inversions, and I think that that's something that we all need to talk about. But definitely exposes some holes in what the president thought was going to be a clean argument for him.
Yeah. All right, Kirsten Kukowski, appreciate your time and nice talking to you.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.